Welcome back to the Wichita Toy Train Club YouTube channel. I'm Zach Rabb. Behind the camera we have Chris, and today we're going to take a look at Lionel's new Union Pacific 412-2. So the 412-2, or the Union Pacific type steam locomotive, was dubbed, by its namesake railroad, the Union Pacific. They were the only ones that ever used it. UP received its first 412-2 in about 1926. In the mid-1920s, they were trying to find a different locomotive that could haul heavier freights faster. A lot of railroads used Mallet or articulated type steam locomotives. Union Pacific, I think they had leased and then bought some 410-2s, and then they approached ALCO, the American Locomotive Company, to produce a 412-2, and they put a third cylinder in the front of the locomotive, so there are 3 cylinders up there, giving it a little bit more power and also capable of getting a little higher speeds than the other locomotives of the time. So this is Lionel's latest rendition of the Union Pacific 412-2. This has been cataloged in Lionel's 2021 Volume 2 catalog. These started shipping right around late summer, early fall 2022. The 412-2 has a minimum curve of 0.72. Really don't want to go any sharper. It's very long, very rigid frame steam locomotive. It will find imperfections in the track, and it's very picky. Let's put it that way. Anyway, other than that, this is all your standard legacy features. And we got LED lights forward all the way to the back. So we have our headlight, bicolored marker lights, illuminated number boards, main stack smoke unit, whistle steam smoke unit, bicolor classification lights on the tender, backup light on the tender, electric coupler on the tender, all the goodies. Let's go in for a closer look. So starting at the front of the locomotive here, right down on the front, we have it's kind of a shorter pilot. It's more contemporary style UP pilot. We have our scale dummy coupler right here. You do get a dummy O-gauge coupler, so you can pull this out. It's real fun because then you got to pull this bar out of here for the coupler cut bar. But you can put that on there, and you can double head the locomotive. Really cool. Moving on, we have this fun little ladder right here. That way, we can get up here. And then the one thing that's really weird for UP is we got the air compressors mounted right here on the front of the smoke box. I don't know of any other UP locomotive that had this. This is as built from ALCO. I do believe later on they did sometimes in the shops they would move them further back where they would normally be on a UP locomotive. So it'd be kind of interesting if Lionel ever did another version of the 412-2 with them in a different spot. But anyway, we have them up front here as built. Very different, very neat look to it. We have the tiny inspection door kind of right here in between them. Moving up, we have a high mounted headlight. We will have our illuminated number boards on either side. We have a number board right here below. On the either side of that, we have our bicolor classification lights, which can only be changed from the Cab 2 remote, or soon to still be coming Cab 3 app with the base 3. Moving up, we have a separately applied bell. It just sits up here and rattles around. Moving down, we have our illuminated classification lights over here. It's kind of a weird, crazy stand they have on here. I think this was older toolings, that might be why they used that. But it doesn't look bad unless you just stare at it for 5 minutes. Anyway, moving down, we do have legible builder's plates from ALCO and the superheater company, it looks like. Actually, I don't think it should be superheated. No, it is superheated. Anyway, moving on. I'm reading things as we're taking the video. It gets interesting. We have our handrail here, which is also the antenna for the Legacy and TMCC control system, so we want to be very careful with that. If this edge here ever hits and rubs and touches here, it could short out, and then it just won't respond to commands, and you'll be confused why your new locomotive doesn't work. Anyway, moving on. We do have some of the valve gear here for the third cylinder. That third cylinder sits all the way back in there. We'll try to get another shot and see if there's any other better angles for you. But we do have some valve gear here. None of this moves. I think some other manufacturers made some models of the 412-2 where some of this stuff moved, which would be kind of cool, but this one doesn't. But it's still very neat to see and have all that stuff on there. Moving down the side of the locomotive here, we have a lot of valve gear here. There's a lot of wheels, a lot of valve gear. Starting for, we have the, I think this would all be part of the power reverse. It's kind of loose, kind of scares me, but you know, it is completely normal. It did surprise me though that it's so loose like that. You know, nothing else moves with it. It doesn't go back and forth with anything for the actual reversing mechanism, but because here's our power reverse cylinder here. Anyway, moving on, you can see our main rod here from the cylinder it's pretty long. It's kind of crazy, but it's again, it's really nice. This does have the darkened side rod, so it gives kind of an in-service look is what Lionel goes for. I don't think it looks bad. They do have a polished version. There's a couple of them that have a polished side rod, so you can choose those if you want. If we do look back up in here, though, we can see the main rod coming from the third cylinder, and that'll come all the way down to an eccentric crank right here on the second axle, or the second driver set right here. And when we get further along, you guys will be able to see that a little better. Moving up, we do have, again, some more separately applied details, some pipes and so forth. We got some hydro test stickers along the bottom side here. Moving up, we do have another piece. I don't know what it is, but it's here. And of course, we got our sand pipes that go down to all of our drivers. All those come down the side of the boiler. And there's not, other than that, there's not a whole lot on the side of the boiler on these. The walkway, you might get a better shot later, but it doesn't have safety tread. It's just smooth, but it all looks really nice. Moving down, we got our firebox area. It's a fairly large firebox. Of course, it's a fairly large boiler. Go figure. We do have the variable ash pan glow effect in here. So there's our ash pan, and as the motor gets more voltage put to it, there's little red LEDs that get brighter and brighter and brighter. Anyway, so it's kind of a cool effect that they add in there. This is the end of our drivers, which comes quite a ways back, and we have our nice trailing truck here. Nothing crazy going on. More pipes, rivet detail. The color, I didn't mention this before, but there's been, kind of depends how closely you follow some of the Lionel stuff. They've had some questionable just flat gray colors rather than a silver color on the firebox or smoke box area. And on this Locomotive, everything really looks a very nice graphite smoke box kind of correct color. So if anybody's been concerned about that, everything really looks nice on this stuff. Moving back, we have our cab area, nice crisp 9023, along with our UP nomenclature below that, all the fun mumbo jumbo down there. And of course, there's our handrail, other fun pipe coming down there. Moving up, we're looking at the top of the cab now. Rivet detail, we have our cab vents. These do not open. I believe that's probably because, you know, the tooling was originally from early 2000s. But that's, yeah, don't try to open those because they don't. Anyway, moving on. We have, you know, the front of the steam turret up here with closed box, so nothing crazy there. We have our whistle, and of course our hole for the whistle steam smoke effect. Do not put smoke fluid down this hole, please. There is another hole where we'll fill it. There's a big long tube, and you'll make a giant mess if you try to put smoke fluid down there. Anyway, moving on. We'll see that here in a second. We do have some more details and so forth. On top of the Locomotive, we have our dynamo safely up here where it belongs. Moving forward some more, we have all kinds of stuff going on here. We have our safety pop-off valves here, little red valve with a, well, regular valve with a red knob, if I can speak. Safety valves, of course, all that looks nice. We have our steam dome here, and our steam dome is where we're going to fill our smoke fluid for the whistle steam smoke effect. So we're going to have to come in here, big fat hand comes in here, and we take that off. It does have magnets. It also has a gasket on here. Try to make sure that has a little smoke fluid on it. It helps it seal and keeps you from tearing that O-ring on there. And we're just going to pour smoke fluid directly down this hole, and that'll go straight into our smoke unit for the whistle steam smoke effect. Pop that dude back on and you're good to go. Moving forward, we have our sand dome, and underneath our sand dome is all of our fun controls for the Locomotive. And we'll get a better shot of that here in a second. So we realized all the numbering and stuff on the switches was upside down for you guys, so we flipped it around and you get to see another side of the Locomotive. Anyway, starting off with the switches underneath that sand dome, we have our whistle steam on-off switch, we have our main smoke on-off switch, and then we have the BLE, that's Bluetooth Low Energy, which is just really long to say this is how you turn the Bluetooth on and off so people can't hijack your engine if you're at a public show or something. And then you have the run program switch. And all that is right there nicely underneath the front hatch. This is keyed, so it only goes on one way, and it pops right down in there just like that. Moving forward, we do have some different pipes and stuff on this side of the smoke box. Another red handled valve and more pipes. Probably conduit really is probably what that is. And whatnot. And then of course we have our main stack, and to load smoke fluid, we're going to drop some more smoke fluid directly down that stack, and that'll go right into that smoke unit. And I bumped the camera. Cool. We're looking at the cab here. We'll pop up some other pictures and different angles and stuff while we're talking here. But we figured we'd go ahead and take a look in here. Again, no safety tread or anything. Everything's smooth for the plating in here, but we have a lot of hand-painted valves and gauges and so forth. The gauges in there are illuminated, so when we get track power, you might see a random flash as it goes around a corner or something that the gauges are lit. It's got a cab light in there, the flickering firebox. There's a lot of stuff going on in this cab. And at the same time, it's also pretty normal. As I say that, I don't think I've seen very many Lionel locomotives with lit gauges here recently, so that's kind of a cool added feature. Okay, looking at the tender now. Not a whole lot going on here. It's actually kind of a small tender for as big as the locomotive is. I'm used to the UP Centipede tenders. This is definitely a 1920s era UP tender. Moving on though, we do have a real coal load up here, so it looks pretty nice. Moving back, we have handrails. These handrails you can bend up. I really don't care. It's not the antenna, so I won't complain. But you probably ought to still be careful around them. But they are not imperative to the operation. Anyway, we do have two marker lights back here. Again, these are the bicolored, so they're red or they could be white lights. You can again control those with the cab 2 remote. Moving back, we do have 3 water hatches. And each of those do open. They're kind of let's see here. I don't want to use that. Yeah, they do open. There's nothing in there. We don't have a master volume pod anymore. There's no rail signal switch. There's no switches on the tender now. So that's just, they open. Anyway, moving on. We do have perforated holes in the walkways on each side of the tender. So that is kind of neat. It is a kind of a Vanderbilt style tender, so it's large, but at the same time it is rounded back here. We do have a nice crisp Union Pacific down the side there, and kind of the good silver aluminum paint that it's supposed to be in. We have our toolbox. We have our 6-wheel trucks, so very beefy trucks for the little teeny tiny tender. Moving back to the rear of the tender here. First and foremost, we do have our electrocoupler. You can actually change this out for a KD scale coupler. You get all the mounting and stuff in the box. I don't think they give you any information on how to use that stuff in the manual, but they give you all the hardware you need to, and all the holes are already tapped in the frame, so you can put a scale coupler on here if you want. But on the plus side, the electric coupler, it's kind of tucked back in there a little bit, so that pulls your first car a little closer to the engine. Moving up though, we do have some information down here as far as the capacity of the tender, our nice big 9023 and a nice big UP. This is a marker light right here, kind of different, I know, kind of freaked me out, but this turns red and white with the other 2 marker lights on the tender. So that's there, and then up top here we do have our backup light, which of course is activated whenever you put the locomotive in reverse. We have 2 nice ladders that come up either side of the tender. Looking on the bottom side of the locomotive now, we can see all our front wheels. But no, seriously, again, new locomotive. I'd recommend going through right where the axle goes through the metal frame. Put a drop of oil on each side. All of our side rods. A lot of oil spots on this locomotive. Got 3 center rail rollers for good electrical contact. A little drop on those, keep those from squeaking. Same thing with our pilot truck, our trailing truck, all the good stuff. Moving on, we do have our this is our centric crank from the 3rd cylinder. So this does move. So again, a little drop of oil on that was probably pretty good. If I go ahead, this has a non-locking gearbox, so I can spin it. As you can see, all that spins when the locomotive is in operation. So I'd put a little drop of oil on that, keep all that fun stuff from squeaking too. Moving to the tender now, we have our standard 2 6-wheeled trucks. Again, a little bit of oil where the needlepoint axle goes into the bronze bushing. Keeps all that working good. 2 center rail pickup rollers, so a little drop of oil on that. Keeps everything from squeaking on you. Moving on, we do have our IR sensor for the LCS center track. That's the easiest way to get all the locomotive information loaded into the legacy base. Either into the legacy base on your handheld or onto the app whenever that comes out at some point. Or you can enter it all manually, but that makes it fun and easy. As you can see here, there's the electric coupler. It does have some length to it, so that when they tuck that back up in there, that kind of helps with the gap between the tender and the first car. Helps with that. We have our little bit of brake detail right here, and two speakers for our sound system. This does have the new sound card in it, so there is no way to add a battery to keep the sounds from cutting out, unfortunately. Okay, we're back over here on our new layout. We got the 412.2 over here, train coupled up, track power's on, so let's go ahead and fire it up and listen to some of the sounds.
Dispatcher here. Start her up. Stand by for track orders. Over.
Yes, sir. We'll fire her up. Out.
There's a really long pause now, kind of in between after the extended started up and the actual startup sounds. Supposedly, I don't know if it really applies to this one because I haven't heard anything crazy, but they've been adding some newer, longer startup sequences to them, and so it always assumes the longest before the startup sound starts. So maybe I just haven't found the longest one on this one, but that and on any of the new locomotives, that might be the case. Anyway, let's go ahead and listen to the whistle. I do believe that is the default whistle. It'd be the correct whistle for the 412.2. So there's 4 other whistles, so we'll go ahead and listen to those. Here's number 2. Not a bad sounding whistle. Here's number 3. Don't know what we're doing with a hooter on a 412.2, but we got a hooter. Number 4. Sounds really nice. Don't know if it really goes with the locomotive. To me, it kind of sounds like the Polar Express. And number 5, because they just can't withhold themselves. We have a big boy whistle. There were the 3-chime whistle that Hancock whistled that all the big UPs team used. Not right for this. So we'll use that. And same thing with the bell. So here's got a slow going bell, so that's number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. And we're back to our normal. They do have, on the 7 key or the tower comm, we do have some different sounds now. It's not the standard stuff.
Make a note for the house. The right injector needs some attention.
So we get some kind of fun, different stuff that we don't normally get. Sometimes there's stuff that pops up. I don't think it didn't seem to play nice, or make sense in the situation on the locomotive.
Call in the flag man. Let's get going.
But I think most of the stuff on this one is correct, so it's pretty neat. And then of course we have the standard, fun, generic stuff.
My coal's full. Out. Dispatcher, air is made. Brake test complete. Are we clear to pull? Over.
Hold your position. Out.
Oh, we have that stuff yet too. So we move back to the tender here real quick. I wanted to show you guys, here's our bicolor classification lights. If I go ahead and go into the lighting menu on the cab 2, I can switch those from red to white or turn them off completely. And there's a third one that hides back up in here. It's hard to see. Let's see if we get another shot of it. That also does the same thing. But correct with the way UP ran their locomotives, these would only really be on if this was the end of the train. And so it would act like your current day end of train device. That's what they were there for, to show that that was the end of the train. So hooked up to a train, this really wouldn't be correct to have those on. What I noticed, because I run some sound cars with a lot of my UP engines, so when I make the train, this is me on the engine. I don't know if I can pop this in here. You can see we're on the engine. If I pop over to train, it automatically turns off those marker lights. Of course, our front ones are still on because that's still the front of the locomotive. But on the train, it automatically turns off our marker lights. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to take it for a spin around the layout. I guess real quick, there's our front marker lights. There's white and green. We'll go ahead and put it into sequence control. Now, if you remember, sequence control always adds the some automated sounds. When I go forward, it'll blow the whistle 3 times, 2 times to go forward, and go backwards. It would also always
This is the dispatcher. Take the green. Over.
Thank you much. Cleared outbound. Out.
It cut me off. Fun. But when you would go backwards, it would also still only do 2 toots of the whistle. With the new boards and everything, actually, if I go in reverse, I went in reverse, you guys can't see the light, but went in reverse, if I go first speed set now, I actually get all 3 toots out of the whistle. We can go ahead and go forward again, and we'll go ahead and take it for a spin. We'll get our 2 toots for going forward, and we'll take it for a spin around the layout here. Oh crap, maybe I went down one.
Dispatcher, we're on the move. Over.
Roger that. Good run. Out.
you know when I'm rolling. Out. Dispatcher, we're done for the day. Out.
All right, as you guys just saw, this thing looks and sounds great. You know, 3 chuffs per revolution, it's a little different. It sounds like it's going really fast, but it's not. It just isn't. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, you know, it's a really cool locomotive Lionel put out again. Hit the ball out of the park. The only thing I've ever really had issues with, and I think it's been user error 9 times out of 10, and I don't know how well it shows up on the video, but if it looked great there, then, you know, it's... but I've had issues with the whistle steam a couple times. There's a funnel that's actually cast into the boiler shell that goes down to the smoke unit right here, and then there's a tube that goes all the way back. And I think I've overfilled it, and I can't ever get good whistle steam out of it. But, you know, again, that's, you know, my fault, not Lionel's. Just be cautious, because it's 2 separate smoke units. I'm very used to all the big UP steam with dual smoke units, so I dump a bunch of smoke fluid in there, and yeah. Anyway, Chris, do you have any favorite part of the locomotive?
Honestly, not really. Other than it's unique with the 3 chuffs a revolution. It's not something that you find, you know, on the average steam engine. So just having that unique factor makes this engine special. Yes,
it does. And you know, UP's the only one that had them. Only had 88 of them. It's a very unique locomotive. So the 412.2's MSRP'd right at $1,700. Pretty steep, but if you go through any good Lionel dealer, you usually get a pretty good discount on that retail price. And as of the recording of the video, I just looked, and 2 or 3 dealers actually still have some, so you might check them out if you're looking for one. The 412.2s, like I said before, they were in the 2021 Volume 2 catalog, and they made a bunch of different SKUs. As Lionel likes to try and do. You know, it gets the biggest bang for their buck when they produce locomotives. But there was a 9000. Of course, it's famous because it's the only surviving 412.2. We have the 9023, and then I think there was 2 others, standard UP ones, and then a Greyhound one, because they did that again with the silver striping instead of the yellow striping. And then a slew of other roads, Southern Pacific. I don't think they did Santa Fe, but it'll show up here on the screen. I'll flip through a couple pages of the catalog. There was 2 pages of 412.2s. It's insane, really. But check it up. You know, go online if you're looking for one. A couple dealers may still have them. This concludes our review of the Lionel Union Pacific 412.2. Be sure, if you liked this video, or if you didn't like it, go down, hit like, dislike, whichever one you want, and let us know in the comments why you clicked either one. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell, that way you get all the notifications of our product reviews, running touring videos, anything we post on YouTube, really. You know, sometimes we're on and off. We might go for a splurge, and we're both kind of busy, so there may be a dead period, but hit the bell, that way when something new shows up, you get notified right away. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook. Sometimes some more stuff gets posted there for our open hours here in Wichita, Kansas, and any of our upcoming train shows in the local area. Thanks for watching. Maybe.
Okay, there we go.